What happens when a simple interview turns into a career-ending confrontation? When two of country music's biggest names sit down for what should have been a lighthearted conversation, it instead becomes the most explosive moment in daytime television history. This is the story of how Kelly Clarkson walked away from everything she built. And it all started with one question that Blake Shelton never saw coming. Before we dive in, make sure you hit that subscribe button and drop a comment below telling us what you think really happened. Now, let's get into it. The studio lights were blazing as Kelly Clarkson settled into her chair across from Blake Shelton. Her audience was already primed, excited to see the reunion of two coaches who had shared so many laughs on The Voice. Blake walked out with his trademark swagger, waving to the crowd, that familiar grin plastered across his face. Kelly stood to greet him, and they hugged like old friends. But something was different in her eyes, something the audience couldn't quite place yet. "Blake Shelton, everybody," Kelly announced as the applause died down. She sat back down, smoothing her dress, and looked at him with an expression that wasn't quite as warm as her introduction. "It's been a minute since we've sat down like this." "Too long," Blake said, leaning back comfortably. "You know, I miss giving you a hard time every day. Nobody on The Voice now can take a joke like you could." Kelly smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Oh, I took jokes. All right. Took a lot of them, actually." Blake laughed, not catching the edge in her voice. "That's what made it fun. You and I, we had that thing where we could just go back and forth. No hard feelings, right? No hard feelings." She glanced down at her notes, then back up at him. "So, Blake, you've been doing a lot of press lately about your life, your career, your time on The Voice. You've told some pretty great stories." "I've got a million of them," he said, grinning at the audience. 23 seasons of that show. You collect some memories." "You do," Kelly agreed, "and you've been really open about your experiences. Really candid." She paused, letting the moment hang there. Sometimes, maybe a little too candid. Blake's smile faltered just slightly. "What do you mean?" Kelly leaned forward, her voice still friendly, but with an unmistakable firmness underneath. "Well, you did that podcast a few weeks ago. The one where you talked about how you used to place bets with Adam about which female coach would crack first under pressure." The audience went quiet. Blake shifted in his seat. "Come on, Kelly. That was just guy talk. Locker room stuff." "We were joking around, were you?" Kelly asked. "Because you were pretty specific. You said, and I'm quoting here, that you put $50 on me having a breakdown by season 3 because I was too emotional to handle the competition." Blake's face reddened. "Kelly, listen. That was taken out of context. I listened to the whole podcast, Blake, 2 hours. I heard all the context." Kelly's voice remained calm, but her jaw was set. "You also said that women coaches were great for ratings because we brought the drama, but that we didn't have the same strategic minds as you and Adam. You said we coached with our hearts instead of our heads. Like that was a weakness." "I didn't mean it like that," Blake protested. "You know how I am. I say things. I'm joking around. I don't always think about how it sounds, right? You don't think?" Kelly said. "That's becoming really clear." The audience was completely silent now. A few people exchanged glances. Blake looked out at them, then back at Kelly, his defenses rising. "Okay, I'm sensing some hostility here that I wasn't expecting. I came on your show thinking we were friends." "We were friends," Kelly said. Past tense. "You know what friends don't do, Blake? They don't go on public platforms and undermine everything their friend accomplished. They don't reduce their friend's success to being emotional or dramatic. They don't make bets about when their friend is going to fail." "I never wanted you to fail," Blake said, his voice rising. "I rooted for you." "Did you?" "Because it sounds like you were waiting for me to fall apart." So you could collect $50 and prove whatever point you thought you were making about women in this industry. Blake ran a hand through his hair. You're twisting this into something it wasn't. No, Blake, I'm finally seeing it for what it always was. Kelly's composure was steel. Now, you know what the worst part is? I defended you. When people said you were difficult to work with, when they said you had an ego problem, I stood up for you. I said, that's just Blake. He doesn't mean any harm. But you did mean harm, didn't you? Maybe not consciously, but you meant it. Kelly, come on. Blake's voice took on a pleading quality. We had great times together. Remember all the laughs? Remember when we pranked Adam with the voice changer? Remember when we did that duet at the finale? I remember all of it, Kelly said quietly. And that's what makes this so disappointing, because I thought those moments were real. I thought we had mutual respect. But you can't respect someone and then talk about them the way you talked about me and every other woman on that show. Blake stood up suddenly. I don't have to sit here and be attacked like this. Sit down, Blake. Kelly's voice was commanding. Asterisk, you came on my show. You're going to hear what I have to say. Blake hesitated, looking at the audience, at the cameras, at Kelly. Slowly, he sat back down. The tension in the room was suffocating. If you want to know what really bothers me, Kelly continued, it's not even just what you said about me. It's that you represent this entire attitude that's been plaguing this industry for decades. This idea that women are too emotional, too soft, too dramatic. That we're here for entertainment value, but not to be taken seriously. You had a platform, Blake. You had influence. And instead of using it to lift people up, you used it to tear women down while pretending it was all just good fun. That's not fair, Blake said weakly. What's not fair? Kelly countered. Is that I've spent my entire career proving myself. I won American Idol at 20. I built a music career from nothing. I got my own talk show. I became a coach on The Voice and won multiple seasons. And still, after all of that, I have to hear you reduce me to someone who's just too emotional to handle the pressure. Do you have any idea how exhausting that is? Blake didn't answer. He just looked at her, and for the first time, there was something like understanding dawning in his eyes. I'm tired, Blake, Kelly said, and now her voice carried real emotion. I'm tired of smiling through jokes that aren't funny. I'm tired of being the cool girl who can take it. I'm tired of watching men in this industry say whatever they want with no consequences, while women have to measure every single word. So, what do you want from me? Blake asked quietly. Kelly looked at him for a long moment. I want you to do better, but more than that, I want this industry to do better. And if that means I have to be the one to call it out even when it costs me, then that's what I'm going to do. Blake shifted uncomfortably, his face a mixture of defensiveness and something that might have been shame. So, you're saying I'm the problem? Me specifically? You're part of it, Kelly said. And you know what? That podcast wasn't even the first time. I let things slide for years because I wanted to keep the peace. Remember when you told that reporter that my coaching style was adorable? Like I was a kid playing dress-up instead of a professional doing her job? I thought that was a compliment, Blake said, but his voice lacked conviction. Did you? Kelly's laugh was bitter. Or did you know exactly what you were doing? Because when they asked you about Adam's coaching style, you called him strategic and brilliant. When they asked about my style, I was adorable. Do you see the difference? Blake opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. Maybe I could have chosen better words. Maybe. Kelly leaned back in her chair. Blake, I need you to understand something. Every single word matters when you're a woman in this business. When you call me emotional, women watching hear that their feelings make them weak. When you call me adorable instead of skilled, young girls hear that they'll never be taken as seriously as men. Your words have weight. whether you want them to or not. I never thought about it like that, Blake admitted. And for the first time, he sounded genuine. That's the problem, Kelly said. You never had to think about it. You're a white man in country music. You could stumble drunk into a recording studio and people would call it authentic. I have to be perfect, polished, and pleasant every single day, or I'm difficult. Do you know how many times I've been called difficult, Blake? Blake shook his head. 73 times, Kelly said. I counted 73 different articles, interviews, or social media posts calling me difficult. And you want to know what I did to earn that label? I disagreed with a producer about song choices. I asked for better catering for my crew. I called out a photographer who kept asking me to pose in ways that made me uncomfortable. That's what difficult means when you're a woman. It means you had boundaries. Kelly, I hear you. I do, Blake said, leaning forward. But you're acting like I've been out to get you this whole time. We were friends. We had each other's backs, did we? Kelly's eyes flashed. When that tabloid ran that story saying I was jealous of Gwen, did you have my back? When they said I was trying to steal your spotlight on The Voice, did you correct them, or did you just laugh it off because it didn't affect you? Blake's silence was answer enough. Here's what really happened, Kelly continued. You benefited from our friendship when it was convenient. When we could banter on camera and boost ratings. When we could do duets that made you look supportive of women in music. But the second the cameras were off, the respect disappeared. I was back to being the emotional one, the adorable one, the one you could bet against. That's not true, Blake said. But his protest sounded hollow. And explain the podcast, Kelly challenged. Explain why you thought it was okay to say those things. Explain why you didn't think about how I would feel hearing them. Blake rubbed his face with both hands. I don't know, Kelly. I was just talking, trying to be entertaining. The hosts were egging me on, asking for dirt, and I gave them something. I didn't think you'd actually hear it. So, it's okay as long as I don't hear it. Kelly's voice rose for the first time. That somehow makes it better that you're only disrespectful behind my back. No, that's not what I meant, Blake said quickly. I'm trying to explain, not excuse it. Then explain this, Kelly said, pulling out her phone. After that podcast aired, I got hundreds of messages. Women telling me they experience the same thing at their jobs. Mothers telling me they worry about their daughters going into industries where they'll be treated the way you treated me. Girls who looked up to both of us, confused about why you would say those things. So explain to them, Blake. Explain why their feelings don't matter as much as your need to get a few laughs. Blake looked genuinely distressed. I can't explain that. I can't defend it. Finally, Kelly said. Finally, you're being honest. The audience was completely transfixed. Several people were filming on their phones. Blake noticed and looked away. You know what the craziest part of all this is? Kelly asked. I still don't think you're a bad person. I think you're a product of a system that taught you that this behavior is acceptable. That locker room talk is harmless. That women should just lighten up and take a joke. But Blake, the joke stopped being funny a long time ago. For me, for every woman who's been in my position, the joke has never been funny. So what now? Blake asked. You want an apology? You want me to go back on that podcast and take it all back? I want more than that, Kelly said firmly. I want you to understand why this matters. I want you to think before you speak. I want you to recognize that your platform comes with responsibility. And honestly, Blake, I want you to feel even a fraction of what it's like to be on the other side of those comments. Blake looked at Hurley, looked at her end. Something in his expression cracked. Hurt you. I can see that now. You hurt a lot of people, Kelly corrected. I'm just the one with a microphone big enough to say something about it. I'm sorry, Blake said quietly. I know that probably doesn't mean much right now, but I am. Kelly studied him for a moment. You're sorry you got called out, or you're sorry for what you did? Both, Blake admitted. I'm sorry I said those things. I'm sorry I didn't think about the impact. And yeah, I'm sorry this is happening on television in front of millions of people, but maybe that's what I needed. Maybe this is the only way I was going to actually listen. Maybe, Kelly said. But here's the thing, Blake. An apology without change is just manipulation. So, I need to know, are you actually going to change? Or are you going to leave here, do some damage control with your publicist, and then go right back to the same behavior once this blows over? Blake took a deep breath. I want to change. I don't know exactly how yet, but I want to do better. Then start by listening, Kelly said. Listen to women when they tell you something hurts. Don't dismiss it as sensitivity or overreaction. Don't make it about your intentions. Just listen and believe that our experiences are valid. I can do that, Blake said. Can you? Kelly pressed. Because this isn't the first conversation like this you've had. Gwen has tried to talk to you about this stuff. Jennifer Hudson mentioned it in an interview. Even Ariana brought up feeling like her opinions weren't valued the same way, but you kept doing it. So, forgive me if I'm skeptical about whether one public call-out is going to actually make a difference. Blake's face reddened again. What do you want me to say, Kelly? I messed up. I've been messing up. I'm sitting here admitting it in front of your entire audience. What more do you want? I want you to be uncomfortable, Kelly said bluntly. I want you to sit in this feeling and remember it the next time you're about to make a comment about a woman's emotions or abilities. I want this conversation to haunt you enough that you actually make a change. Blake nodded slowly, his jaw tight. Okay, I get it. I hear you. Do you though? Kelly asked, her voice softer now, but no less intense. Because I've been hearing I get it from men in this industry my whole career, and nothing ever changes. Actions, Blake. I need to see actions. What kind of actions? Blake asked. Tell me what to do, and I'll do it. Kelly shook her head. That's not how this works. I'm not going to give you a checklist so you can feel better about yourself. You need to figure out what change looks like for you. You need to do the work of examining your own behavior and biases. I can't do that for you. That's not fair, Blake said, frustration creeping back into his voice. You're calling me out, but you won't even tell me how to fix it. Life isn't fair, Blake, Kelly replied. I've spent 20 years navigating an industry that wasn't built for people like me. I've had to figure out how to succeed despite constant undermining, despite being called too much or not enough. Despite people like you making bets on when I'd break. So, no, I'm not going to hold your hand through becoming a better person. That's your job. Blake stood up again, this time with more conviction. You know what? I don't think I need to sit here and be lectured anymore. I apologized. I admitted I was wrong, but you're not interested in accepting that? You just want to keep hammering me. Sit down, Kelly said again, her voice ice cold. No, Blake said. I'm done. This isn't an interview. It's an ambush. You're right, Kelly said, standing up to meet his eyes. It is an ambush because that's what it felt like when I heard that podcast. When I heard you laughing about betting on my failure. When I realized that every moment I thought we were building each other up, you were actually tearing me down. So yeah, Blake, this is an ambush and you're going to stand here and take it because I've taken it from you for years. The audience gasped. Blake's face went through several emotions. Anger, embarrassment, confusion. I don't have to take this. Then leave, Kelly said simply. Walk off my show. Prove everyone right who says you can't handle being held accountable. Go ahead. Blake stared at her, his chest rising and falling with heavy breaths. For a long moment, it seemed like he might actually walk. The silence stretched out, uncomfortable and electric. Then slowly, he sat back down. "Thank you," Kelly said, sitting as well. "That took courage." "Doesn't feel like courage," Blake muttered. "Feels like I'm trapped." "Now you know how it feels," Kelly said. "That's how I felt in every meeting where men talked over me. Every interview where I got asked about my weight instead of my music. Every single day I had to smile and be gracious while people like you decided whether I was worth taking seriously." Blake looked down at his hands. "I really didn't see it. I'm not making excuses. I'm just saying I genuinely didn't understand what I was doing." "I believe you," Kelly said. "And that's almost worse because it means this behavior is so normalized that you couldn't even recognize it as harmful. That's how deep this goes, Blake. It's not just you. It's the entire culture." "So, what do we do?" Blake asked, looking up at her. "How do we fix a whole culture?" "We start by having conversations like this," Kelly said. "Uncomfortable, honest conversations where we stop protecting people's feelings and start telling the truth. And then we back it up with action. We call out the behavior when we see it. We amplify women's voices instead of talking over them. We examine our own biases and do better." "That sounds exhausting," Blake said. "It is," Kelly agreed. "But you know what's more exhausting? Being on the receiving end of discrimination every single day and having to act like it's not happening. So yeah, it's going to be uncomfortable for you to change, but at least you get to choose that discomfort. We don't get that choice." Blake nodded. And this time, it seemed like genuine understanding. "I'm going to do better." "I mean it." "I hope so," Kelly said. "Because I meant what I said earlier. I don't think you're a bad person. I think you're capable of growth, but this can't be a one-time thing. This has to be a commitment." "It will be," Blake promised. "And Kelly, for what it's worth, I am truly sorry. Not just for the podcast, but for all of it. For every time I minimized your talent or made you feel less than, you deserved better from me." Kelly's expression softened slightly. "Thank you. That means something. Does it mean we can still be friends?" Blake asked hopefully.